Amen. All right,
Amen.
Elder Wilson.
Yeah.
You ready, Elder? Amen. All right, at this time, Elder Wilson will take over. Amen.
Amen.
I'm ready for God's grace. Right. Good evening, everyone, and also for those that may be in a different time zone. Good evening, good afternoon to you also. We are in the midst of a wonderful experience here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at the remnant of His Seed Church, and we have been tremendously blessed. We all are learning something here today. And I just want to thank God for those that made it possible. It shows their love for this community as they make a tremendous sacrifice to try to help their brothers and sisters and their neighbors. And God has recorded that and wrote it down in the book of memory. So tonight we're going to be talking about, yes, you are constipated. And I don't have to ask if you're constipated. I'm telling you, you are constipated. Nearly all of us are suffering from irregular bowel habits. And so after tonight, I think we all going to agree that, yes, we are constipated. So let's have a word of prayer and get started. Dear loving and precious Father, which art in heaven, dear Lord, thank you so much for your everlasting kindness and grace. Thank you, Father, for your Holy Spirit. And Lord, thank you for being in this place. And Lord, proving that you can move upon man and woman and do your will, even in a perverted and wicked generation. Lord, there are some that dare to stand like Daniel. Bless us to this end in Christ's name. Amen. So we're looking at, yes, you are constipated. I know that when you hear this subject, you're going to cringe a little bit. And it's not a popular favorite topic. Nevertheless, our bowel movement holds valuable clues to our overall health. It's not something you want to talk about at the dinner table, but it's something we must talk about. But there are signs that is all around us, revealing to us that we have some serious problem with our bowel habits. And we're going to have to, in spite of being uncomfortable, we're going to have to talk about the poop, because the poop is a reflection of your health. It really is. It's a blueprint of your health. The appearance and smell of your poop is a direct reflection of your overall health, as well as any inflammation your gut is I want you to know that whether it's arthritis or whether it's an inflammatory condition, it is directly associated with toxic debris being retained in the system too long. This toxic debris begins in the digestional system. It's connected with your nervous system, and it is the pathway for toxin to spread out through the body. And so consequently, you need to be detoxed, all of us. And I'm speaking to all of us. We need to be detoxed and cleansed out. You would be amazed how your body will function once this take place. Changes, and please notice this, any changes in your bowel habits can be an indication of changes in other parts of your body, from excessive stress to liver problem or even cancer. So you don't typically want to associate irregular bowel habits with stress, but it can really interfere with the systematic release of toxin out of your body. It can speed it up, it can slow it down. Your liver is your chemical laboratory of your human body. It processes everything that you put in your body. And if that liver is malfunctioning, that means that vital organs in your system will be deficient and will suffer the consequence. Cancer, arthritis, diabetes, and many other diseases are associated with a toxic overload, too much waste left in the system. And when I said, yes, you are constipated, I'm simply repeating what is an obvious fact. Nearly the entire race is afflicted with constipation. Waste matter that is left entirely too long in your body. You see, the average person will pay attention to his automobile. He gets his oil change, he makes sure you get good gas in it, so you have good fuel, and he changes filtering system. All of those things are vital for him to be able to function and travel and do the things he necessary. But with all that special care for an automobile, he neglects that same care for his human body. One of the main clues to bowel and intestinal toxicity is smell and irritability. I'm going to talk about intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And you see the acronym SIBOD. That's an acronym for small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. See, in your body, you have your small intestines, which is over 22 feet long. That's where most of your nourishment is absorbed from the food that you eat. It is connected to the bottom of your stomach, to the 12 inches of the duodenum. And as the food leaves the stomach and go into that 12 inches of the duodenum, there it passes on to the small intestines, and there it began to absorb nourishment from the food through a little delicate little organs called intestinal villi. Intestinal villi are like little fingers that wiggles, but they're actually wiggling and they're sucking in and sucking out the nourishment, your vitamins and your minerals, and it's sucking it out and it's taking it right to the liver so that your liver can process it. It can be when it malfunctions, it can cause some serious problems, especially if there's overgrowth of toxicity in the small intestine. It should not be there, first of all, because that's where nourishment is. Your colon is your sewage system. That means that all your waste should go there, and nothing there is really usable except sometimes to manufacture some B vitamins and some other essential elements, but primarily it's your waste sewage system. And so it can handle the toxicity to some degree, but not so with your small intestine. Bacteria play an important role in your large intestine, where they break down carbohydrates, help absorb nutrients, regulate your immune function, and produce other important compounds like neurotransmitters. These processes produce a lot of gas. Have you ever wondered why you get so much gas? It's because you've got a processing plant. and it's breaking it down. It's combustion is taking place. And as that take place, gas, lots of gas can be produced depending on the food that you eat. But the large intestine is designed to mostly accommodate the gas production. Not the small intestines, but the large intestines, which is 5 feet long, is built to accommodate a lot of buildup of gas because it's that last gut before it expels it out the body. But the small intestine is not built for that. It can handle some, but not much. Now we're going to see what I'm talking about. However, issues arise when gas-producing bacteria enter the small intestines. So what can take place is that in the colon, which is the last section of your intestinal tract, sometimes the waste from the colon can upchoke, filter back into the small intestines. And that can lead to bloatedness, diarrhea, constipation, and sometimes many other related problems as we see as we continue this. And a lot of times this back and up of waste that upchuck into the small intestine can come because an overload, too much waste. It's got to go somewhere. It's really have. It's got to go somewhere. And sometimes if it's not going out through the regular channels, it will bag up and go the wrong way. And you don't want that, but that happens. And what caused this bag up is eating 6 or more meals a day. And people do that. People snacking. See, every time you eat, because we've been taught that taking 1 peanut in between meals is eating between meals. And so every time you eat, you hinder the digestional process. And you tax that system. And you overwork it. So this concept of having 6 or more meals a day is overburdening the system. Skipping breakfast because you don't have time to eat. And breakfast is the most important meal. It should be your heaviest meal. Matter of fact, I read that it should be your heaviest meal of the day. So your beans and your potatoes and your cornbread and your callaloo and whatever that is, it should be eaten for breakfast. This concept of the continental breakfast is a worldly concept. Ellen White made it very clear that our heavy meal should be in the morning, and then our light meal should be in the day or evening, afternoon. And that's because you're working, and you're working in the day, so you have time to process that heavy meal. But if you're going to get off of work, come home and eat a big heavy meal of potatoes and greens and cornbread and you name it, all that kind of stuff, you're going to take that to bed with you. And you're going to have dreams and visions. And you're going to think, hey, God is talking to me every day. You have dreams and visions. God is not in the theater business, okay? So don't think He's giving you a movie every day. And every time you go to bed, you got a movie to look at called a dream. He ain't doing that. So the Bible said that dreams come from the Lord, or come from a multitude of labor. So if your gut is working too much, you can have dreams, okay? So just remember that. The other one is eating late meals at night. That's another bad thing. Eating a lot of high fat and high sugar diet. That is not good. Now, when that happens, we should be doing it like over here to my left. We should eat about 2 to 3 meals a day. We should eat a hearty breakfast. Our last meal should be no later than 3 p.m. and never go up past 4 p.m. And it should be at least 5 hours before you go to bed at night. We should avoid late meals. We should increase the protein content at our meals, especially our morning meals. And the fasting time should be between 12 to 16 hours. That means that between that 12 and 16 hours, you should have a bowel movement. You should unload that meal that you ate the day before. If it lingers over 24 to 72 hours, that's too long in the system. Putrefaction and fermentation can take place. I stand amazed as I see the results of toxicity that we get from colon, that cesspool of filth filled with morbid mucus and undigested decay. The reabsorption of this deadly demon cannot help, but lay at the foundation of all our misery. Let us arise this very moment and let us cleanse ourselves from the filthiness of the flesh, and let us invite the indwelling of the Holy Spirit to live in a temple fit for the habitation of God. How dare any of us ask the Holy Spirit to live in this cesspool of filth? And we should immediately seek to cleanse ourselves and give God a fit place to tabernacle in.
Amen.
So here we see here, we're going to see now, all of us eat. And the sad thing about it, when we eat, sometime when we eat, it should come on out about 12 to 16 hours, should be pooped out. But not always that happens. Sometimes we eat and we eat and we eat, and you just filling it up. And it just keep filling up and filling up and filling up, and the clock is still ticking. And you get a big stomach, and you wonder where that big stomach come from. You know, and he said, I don't know where I get that big stomach from. Well, it could be full of poop, okay? You'll be amazed, and you're going to see later just how much waste you can be carrying around. And eventually, 24 to 72 hours, you get a small bowel movement. And you think, okay, the doctor tell you what's normal for you is normal, and you go with that. But to be honest with you, the only way you can determine what is normal, you must have a prototype of someone as close to being normal as possible. There is no human being that should be that prototype, especially a grown person. The closest we can come to it is a little baby, that the mother have taken care of herself, and she have made sure that that baby is well taken care of. She nursed that baby, and he has the intestinal flora, the bacilli in his colon, and he is operating on an optimal level. That baby will have a bowel movement every time he nurses, okay? And you get tired of changing his pampers, but he will have it. And then when he get up and start eating, he still will have a bowel movement each time he eats. And that's the closest we can have. If you are eating 6 meals a day and only pooping once a day or once every other day, and some worse than that, then the residue of that toxic waste is building up in your system. And this is where you're going to have problem with insulin sensitivity. You're going to have problem with your total cholesterol level being high. You're going to be hungry because your body is malnourished, you know, and you got plenty of waste in you, but your cells are not feeding. Your cells have to eat. See, we eat and we enjoy the flavor. After we eat, our cells have to eat. If our cells do not eat, then they rebel because they are starving to death, and consequently, they can't not enable us to function in a very healthy way. So just remember that as we eat, let our cells eat. Many people experience a mixture of the above, including alternating diarrhea and constipation. Some people have diarrhea one time and constipation another time. And most of the people, they really think a loose stool is a good bowel movement. And they tell me all the time, I have 3, 4, 5, 6 bowel movements. I'm not constipated. But they are not healthy stools. I hope tonight we can learn what is a healthy stool. Other symptoms of intestinal blockage or buildup waste in the intestinal tract is excessive burping. It's burping because you just bagged up. Acid reflux is another condition. Foul smelling gas. I mean, if it's really smelling like a rotten egg, then that's because it's bagging up. Gurgling noise in your stomach. You know what I'm talking about. And you think that's a noise being I'm supposed to eat again. You know, it's simply your body saying, I'm trying to empty this gut, so please don't eat in between time. But we get false signals with that. Cramping and other discomfort. And so all this bagging up in the small intestine can cause joint pains, mood issues, food sensitivities. You know, people say, well, I'm allergic to this and I got sensitivity to this. A lot of that is because they are constipated, and especially weight gain. This impaction of waste in the small intestines are just an annoying, uncomfortable feeling. They can also impact your overall well-being. They can influence your bacteria in your intestinal tract and can damage the intestinal walls and interfere with nutrient absorption. So you're suffering from malabsorption because this waste is interfering with that. There are many other medical conditions that is created from conditions that lead to bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine, including irritable bowel syndrome. So you start saying, well, you know, I got irritable bowel syndrome. I don't know where that's come from. Well, he said, the doctor said, well, you know, you got a hypernervous condition. Well, what's causing the hypernervous condition is that you got waste matter that's irritating your central nervous system because you're constipated. Lyme's disease. Lyme's disease comes from a tick off of a deer, and he bites you. But what makes Lyme disease so bad is that you're constipated with toxin, and that toxicity is compromising your immune system, and your immune system cannot fight the infection from the Lyme disease. If you was detoxed and clean, then that tick would not bother you because your immune system would take care of that. It would recognize that Lyme bite is a foreign invader. Your immune system will recognize it and clean it out. No problem. Diabetes. Diabetes is a surplus of too much glucose or sugar in your bloodstream from eating too much simple carbohydrates. This influx of high sugar level compromises your immune system. Once again, your immune system cannot function, and you're going to have problems. It slows down your circulatory system, causing major problem and destruction throughout the body, especially your kidneys. Hypothyroid. Your hypothyroid is a very delicate organ, only organ you got in your throat that controls your metabolism. And when we are constipated, this toxicity can interfere with your thyroid gland. So that kind of gives you a good idea. So let's talk about now how we can treat this impaction of waste in the small intestines. First, we need to start by reducing the symptoms through diet. In other words, we increasing symptoms because a bad diet. And when we start making better choices, that's going to reduce the symptoms because the body will stop trying to send you a signal. You know, people don't recognize that symptoms such as diarrhea, pain, and all of that, aches and so on, those are messages sent by God to warn us that something is wrong in our body. You know, God don't do nothing unless he make known to his servants what will surely come to pass. And what's about to take place is you're about to get deadly sick. So you get the symptoms to tell you, hey, you need to make some changes because, man, you're eating yourself to death. And you're full of toxic waste. And so once we quit overburdening the system, the symptoms will shut its mouth, and then we have less diseasement. To ease these symptoms and slow the continued growth of bacteria, you want to eliminate food bacteria and feed your body with soluble fiber, with plenty of fiber. I was talking to a girl today. She's got a problem with a thyroid, and you know, because she's on a special diet, she's mindful that she can't eat so many grains, and so she's eliminated. You know, she's on gluten-free, and I'm in harmony with that. But when you eliminate a lot of grains because you're gluten intolerant, you're going to get a serious deficiency unless you replace those grains with ancient grains. You see, there's a number of ancient grains that can take its place of the genetically modified wheats that they done manufactured in the laboratory. When I was a kid, there was no such thing as gluten intolerance. No, we didn't know what that was. I mean, you can't eat gluten, you can't eat whole wheat bread. We all ate whole wheat bread. You know, you never had no problem. Well, it's because in this technological age, we have manipulated the wheat to be able to make more money. We have changed the whole chemistry of it, and this generation is victims of gluten intolerance. But your grandmama and granddaddy had no problem with that. So if you go back and eat the way the Lord's servant counseled us to eat, and how God spoke to her and how he told us, we'll have less problem with that. Let's listen for some counsel from her now. Fruits containing sugar and acids, nuts contain fat and albumin. Therefore, we have in fruit and nuts all the essential elements of nutrition. So she said that when we have fruit and nuts, we got all the essential elements for nutrition. That's a blessing, right? Nuts are perfect substitute for eggs and meat or any nitrogenic elements. So it's a perfect substitute for animal meat. It's really an animal product. The same is true to beans. Now, Ellen White is still talking. The same is true to beans, except that they contain starches and therefore cannot be eaten by those who cannot eat starch, as they cause what? Bloating and gas in the stomach. You know, have you ever eaten beans and potatoes? If you have, then you notice one thing, you got a lot of gas. A lot of gas because that protein and starch don't mix. And so that's a bad combination. So unless you're going to eat green beans, but not dried beans and starches, you don't want to do that. Okay, so we need to learn how to cook to preserve good health. And this counsel came from General Conference Bulletin, Daily Bulletin. There's no food elements in meat that we do not find in nuts. But there are some things we do not find there. But in the meat, there is dead matter. And in the nuts, there is what? Nothing but life. So you're eating dead food, putting dead food in a so-called living person. That's spiritualism. Because you're communicating with the dead. You're saying that you must have the dead in order to live. That's worse than what Saul did when he went and consulted with the witch. Okay, so you can't do that. I mean, because if we're alive, we need to what? Put live things in us.
Amen. Makes sense.
The main goal is to reduce bacterial content in the small intestines. Again, this can vary a great deal by individual. Herbal antimicrobials can naturally reduce the bacteria without the side effects of antibodies. So in other words, if we got herbal antimicrobials, we won't need antibodies because your body would build up another good defense. Especially these antimicrobials found in oregano, garlic, berberine, red thyme, all have antimicrobial properties. So they have the ability to produce immune reaction in your body. So if you're coming down with a sniffles or colds or you're feeling weak and run down, well, these are the things to what? Use to build up your immune system. Wrong diet, the main cause of our problem. Eating food that do not contain enough roughage or bulk, and also food which are devitamized, lack of muscular tone in the bowels, improper mastication of food, meat diet, too many varieties of food at one meal, eating food that is too concentrated, using coffee and teas, liquor of all kinds, irregular habits of attending the call of nature. So in other words, you're eating all that kind of food, and then nature calls for you to go to the bathroom, and you say, well, you know, I can't go because I'm on the job, and you know, and I don't want to go, you know. You hold it. Sedentary lifestyle. You're not active enough. A lack of exercise. All these are things that have made life miserable, and it's a universal ailment because most of us are practicing this. And because of that, it's affecting the structure of our organs. Here I'm going to show you what the organs should look like, our major organs in our abdominal area. We can see the stomach at the very top. And there we can see the small intestines. That's the little small wiggly tube. And it's hooked up to the same tube that hooks up to your stomach. And then that small intestine is hooked up to the ileocecal valve to your colon. and then your colon then hooks up to your rectum. So really, the colon and intestinal and the stomach is just one long wiggly tube all the way to your mouth. So if you have any problem with bag up of gas, gas will always float upward. And as it go upward, it's going to come out belching and foul breath and many other things that you can sense when you're bagged up. So despite clear relationship with aging, colorectal cancer is not strictly a disease of the middle age. So we think, well, you only get colorectal cancer because you're old, but young people are getting it now. Oh, yeah. The onset of hereditary lifestyle form of the disease is occurring at a much earlier age, typically around the third decade. So young people, don't think you exempt from this. You are having the same problem. The incidence of colorectal cancer varies tremendously throughout the world. And it definitely does. And we'll see that because people in third world countries that eat mostly out of the field or out the garden, they have less problem with colorectal cancer. People that are eating out of commercial restaurants and fast food places, they're having a lot of problem with it. Here's a condition that is associated with eating out of quick fast foods, and it's called diverticulosis. Now, all of us have diverticulosis. It's where the little out pockets develop a balloon protrusion, budge out through the colon because of a weak spot. This your colon is working too hard. It's working too hard to push the waste through. And eventually it hit a weak spot and it budge out. And that budging out is called diverticulosis. If that budging out take place and waste particles get trapped in that little balloon-like protrusion, it can cause an infection. And when the infection takes place, you got what we call diverticulitis. So diverticulosis is not an inflammatory condition. Diverticulitis is an inflammatory condition from waste particles being trapped in those little balloon-like protrusion. Diverticulitis is the infection or inflammation of pouches that can form in the intestine. These pouches are called diverticulosis. The pouches generally are not harmful. No, because nearly all of us have it. But when they get filled with waste and undigested food particles, it can be very painful and can cause a lot of problems. So what should we do if we notice that we're having some bowel-related problems? Well, the first thing is you're going to have to assist nature. Typically, we shouldn't have to revert to enemas and colonics, but because we have abused the system, we're probably going to have some of that. So you may need 2 to 3 enemas, catnip, blackstrap molasses enemas at best a week. You may need it. And to unload the waste. I mean, how many people know their garbage can is smelling and is fermented, and the first thing you want to do is clean it out. Yeah. Well, you had to clean it out before you put something else in it. Well, you got to do the same thing with the human body. In severe cases, you should give a liquid diet. In other words, if that's somebody that's got some severe impaction, you can also put a hot pack over the stomach. That would kind of ease up on the contractions, spasms that's taking place. So doing this, especially with diverticulitis, try not to eat any nuts or seeds because they can get trapped up in those little out pockets. Some of the teas that works really good is chamomile tea, psyllium, papaya. They are very good for this particular problem. We're going to talk as we go through this, some things you can do, and we're going to do a little simple demonstration how that you can make a bowel cleanser that can clean your colon out. A irritable bowel condition is called colitis. It is a condition that is highly associated with stress and anxiety. A lot of young people go off to college, they're cramming to pass an exam, or they're worried about a job, and they have a lot of problem with colitis. And you know, it's because all that stress. And that is because that stress interferes with the body to process food properly. Stricture is where spasms can take place in your colon, where it can close off, and the colon cannot expel the waste in a proper way. And the same thing with the spasms here. This one that you're looking at now is called prolapse of the transversal colon. That's the colon that go right across your top of your stomach there. When the colonic muscles get weak and the body is under stress and the colon is not able to empty it properly, it collapses under pressure. What caused that to take place is, and I'm going to show that. Now, that's your transversal colon right there, right over your abdominal area. If waste is building up right there and it get real heavy, it's going to drop. When it drops, it's dropped down on all the organs beneath it. And when that takes place, it can cause some really serious irritable problems. It can also cause people to have be incontinent, because when it drops, it can sit on top of the bladder. And when it presses on the bladder, you got to hurry and go to the bathroom that you won't be able to hold your urine. So, and it can also rest on the prostate gland, which can also cause some problems. So this is ballooning of the colon. This is where the colon gets so big, so packed up, that you end up with a big old stomach, and you think it's coming from something else, but it's from too much waste in the colon. You also need to be mindful of color of your poop. A super green poop can be from eating greens or eating too fast. A black stew could be from certain foods that you eat, such as licorice, iron supplements, such as blackstrap molasses. It can make your poop dark. It can also be blood, which is a very serious condition. A pale white clay-colored poop is when your bowel duct may be blocked. So your bowel duct is what gives color to your feces. But if it's blocked, it won't be able to do that. A light green feces is not bad at all. It's okay. We can live with that. And then any shade of brown color feces is good. A yellow feces means you got too much fat malabsorption. You're eating a lot of fat. It's not being broken down to fatty acids. You may have celiac disease and so on. Red could be bleeding, could be hemorrhoids, fissures in the colon. Notice also that if your feces float, and even when you flush the toilet, it's hard to go down. This could be from certain medications can make it do that. It can also be from gastrointestinal infection, a celiac disease, a cystic fibrosis, a grave disease, which is hypothyroid. So these are things that are so important. Now, I put in here because, they call me a physiologist. I don't know, I made that name up because I study feces because I think it's the blueprint of your body. This feces that you're looking at right here, it's one that needs plenty of fiber and needs to drink more water. That's simply what it is. If you want to correct that, you need to eat about 85% raw and drink plenty of water and get plenty of exercise. Here's another fecal dropping, a poop. It's a mucus stew. It needs more fiber. A lot of it's going to be fiber because that's what it needs. You need to drink more water. You need to eat about 85% raw. Now, you're probably going to see a blueprint of yourself in some of these slides because somewhere down the line, you're going to come up, okay? And when you come up, then you're going to find out what you can do about it. Amen. Now, have you ever had a poop like this? It's come out like a big snake and it got a little arm broken off on it, That is where you got some out pockets of diverticulitis protrusion out of side of the colon, and the feces will actually make a mole out of it. And when you have a bowel movement, you get something like a little arm sticking out of the feces. Poor diet, need more fiber, needs to drink more water and get good exercise. Have you ever had one where your poop just break up in little clumps? That's a mucus stool. And once again, poor diet. And then you have a poop that could have some blood in it. Could be dark, it could have streaks of blood and mucus in it. And that's where you could be straining and breaking hemorrhoids, fissures, releasing red blood that's mixing with the feces, or you could have some serious problems. You could be bleeding from polyps or something high up in the intestinal tract. And here's another one where, you know, it comes out like a long, and you can see a little streak of blood on this one right here. You know, that's typically, when it's bright red like that's typically hemorrhoids. And anytime you have hemorrhoids, it's very painful. Fissures, what you want to do is inject about 2 ounces or 3 ounces of olive oil in your rectum right before you have a bowel movement. And what it would do is, see, your rectum is dry and you're straining and it's hard to get it out. And as you strain, you're causing the tissue to break because it's so dry. I call it chapped lips of the rectum. If your lips are chapped and you know you try to smile, it cracks and burn. Well, that's what fissures and hemorrhoids will do to you. So what do you do when you have chapped lips? You go get you some lip chap, and you kind of put a little oil on it and moisturize it. Well, it would work for your rectum too. A little oil injected in your rectum right before you poop will stop the fissures from paining. It would also lubricate your rectum so that it'll come out with no problem at all. Notice too that if your poop is lumpy and break up, it may indicate constipation. You need to increase your fiber. And here's one, a common one, poop. The most common treatment for fecal impaction, and this one will definitely be impaction, is an enema, which is special fluid that doctors insert into your rectum to soften the feces to get it out. So if you got one like this, you impact it. And this one here will be post-putrefactive matter. Now, post-putrefactive matter is it's been in your gut so long that it absorbed all the toxin and the waste and the smell is in your bloodstream. So it don't smell at all because it absorbed into your system. That's a post-putrefactive matter, one of the worst ones you can have. You don't want that. And you look at this right here, and you can see streaks of blood, and you can see it's a mucus-forming stool. And this is a very unhealthy stool. It's going to put a lot of trauma and stress on your alimentary canal. And all of this is simply because the fecal impaction is large, hard mass of stool that gets stuck so badly in your colon or rectum that you can't have to push very hard to get it out. And this can be very, very painful and difficult. So, but big thing, you're not drinking enough water. And this is another one right here that is one that different people have because, once again, they're just not taking care of their body the way they should. The diet is poor, lack of activity and exercise. This is another one. And it's plenty of them. You know, it's one for all of us. There are several bowel movements characteristic that is a red flag for the colon and for colon cancer. Colon cancer is a form of cancer that is easier to treat. The sooner it's detected, the better. So if you experience any of the following symptoms, it'd be worthwhile to visit a gastroenterologist to really have some peace of mind. At least you'll know what to do. First of all, some symptoms would look for blood in the stool, constant diarrhea, can go from diarrhea to constipation, change in the frequency of bowel movement, need to poop more often, less than you used to, changes in consistency of your poop, incomplete bowel movement, where you feel like your bowel did not empty properly. These changes by themselves may not mean anything, but 2 or more of these differences in your poop should be checked immediately. Now, we looking inside of your colon, and we're looking at polyps. Over here, you can see a very small polyp, and it's in the first stages. But here we see in the second stages, and then the third and the fourth stages. But if you notice these polyps, as they get larger, it's actually blocking the cylinder of the colon. So that's going to interfere with waste coming in and out of the colon. And that can be a problem. So doctors have techniques where they can go in and they can cauterize those polyps and take them out. But the only reason you get those polyps is, once again, poor habits with diet. It can also become cancerous, and the same thing can take place. Some of them can begin as benign, as we see over here to my left, but as it progresses, it can become malignant and become cancerous, and that can be life-threatening in itself. The highest rate of colon problems is found in industrialized countries of Europe and North America. And Southeast Asia and Africa, the malignancy of colon-related cancer is uncommon, because where they live, they work hard and they work outside, and it makes a world of a difference, not depending on the fast food. Black people in particular, Black Americans and Black people in Europe, they seem to have the highest incidence of colorectal cancer than anyone else. And it's because we eat from an ethnic connection, And I tell people, you can take, and please, I'm not picking on nobody, but I always use this as an illustration. You can take a Jamaican out of Jamaica and put him in New York City, and he'll learn how to eat Jamaican. I guarantee that. And so you can bring him to Fort Lauderdale, and I guarantee you they can be here 20 years, but they're going to find how to eat the way the ancestors ate. Now, they may make some changes. They may become a vegan, but they're going to learn how to prepare it very similar to it, because we eat based on our ethnic relationships. Do you know that white people have less problems with it? Black people have more problems. Do you think we made inferior? No, we're not. What it is, white people, they don't move on ethnic connections. They don't. They go out to eat and they say, honey, let's eat a little Chinese on Monday. And we get a little Korean on Tuesday. And I hear that soul food don't taste too bad on Wednesday. And maybe we can try a little African food on Friday.
They mix it up.
Yeah, they do. But black folks, they want fried chicken, curry goat, and you name it. And they just repetitiously eat nearly the same thing every time. And I'm not saying their selection is better than, but the variety allows them to get nutrients even in bad food that we're missing out on. So I'm not encouraging you to eat more bad food, but eat more variety, okay? If you're going to eat bad, because I'm telling you, if you're just going to eat a mono food, you're going to be deficient quick. And you're going to have problems with some lot of colorectal and rectal related problems. So the purpose of dietary factor and pathogenics of colorectal cancer has been a fact. It's been the focus of much research and controversy, because some people say, well, it really don't have a role to play, that fiber really don't have a role to play, and others say it is. But we know for ourselves that it has a major role to play in how we feel and how our colon react. And once again, here we're just looking here at the diagram of the colon. And I'm going to, that's another fecal drop in there. You can see, as you examine, you can see the undigested food particles and this fecal drop in right here. That means that there's a malabsorption right there. They're not really benefiting. Most of their nourishment's going right down the toilet. In Mark, the 7th chapter, verse 15, and it's a very complex scripture, said there's nothing from without a man that enter into him can defile him. But the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man. Now, if you read that, and it's really confusing. It's a nothing. That means absolutely nothing, all right? That means the swine, that's included with nothing when you think. Nothing. It didn't say some things. It said nothing. There is nothing from without a man. That means there's nothing out there in your yard. There's nothing out there in the grocery store. There's nothing out there in a restaurant. that can enter in, that you put in your body, that enter into the man, can defile him. Now, I know you warned with that, right? Because you know that old nasty swine will defile you. But it said right here that enter into him can defile him. But the things which come out of him, those are they that defile him. Do that make sense? It do. It makes sense. Okay. See, to a swine, I mean, a swine is the most lovely thing in the world. And so as you eat it, it may taste good to you. It may make you feel good. But later on, the end results, when it come out of you, that's when it defiles you. Okay? But when you're eating it, you say, don't hurt me. You know, I can eat all the swine I want. Don't bother me. But wait until it starts to come out in the forms of cancer and lumps and arthritis and everything. I tell you. Oh, boy, it is something, ain't it? So I'm going to show you a few more of these. This is a real deadly type of bowel movement right here. It's got a kind of clay color. I got another one here. This is an explosive bowel. You know where, person, man, I got to go. And I can't wait to get out my way, clear the bathroom. I got to go right now. I'm going to load the toilet up. And he get in there and it said, boom. And little bitty pebbles come out. That's an explosive bowel. It's a lot of gas, but not much fecal dropping. And that is big time problem. You're trying to set up a blockage. And if you don't do something, you're going to have it. Some people have what they call a leaky gut, a leaky stool. And this is where they're eating so many foods that can actually transmit through the gut and invade into the to the body from the rectum, and it can actually migrate into the bloodstream. And it's a leaky gut because you're eating the wrong types of food, and especially lactose-rich dairy food, which can cause some major problems. This is one called gastrointestinal condition. It's called colitis or Crohn's disease. That's what the stool is going to look like. And it's very irritable because you have a lot of these stools, 10, 15 stools a day. And it's hot and it's very irritating, especially in Crohn's. It's breaking down the mucosa of the colon, and it is a major problem. Now, the reason this come about is the intestinal flora has been compromised. You have friendly bacteria, you have disease-producing bacteria. When the disease bacteria outgrow the friendly bacteria, then you're going to end up with colitis or Crohn's disease. So you must keep the friendly bacteria stronger and more, and make it populate more than the disease. You need the disease bacteria in the colon. You need some, but you don't need it to outpopulate the healthy bacteria. And I'm talking about acidophilus, probiotics, Rejuvelax. I'm talking about those things that actually feed the friendly bacteria. So if you're going to work with Crohn's or colitis, you got to change the intestinal flora. Now, a good gardener, he know if he wants to get his soil right, he's got to have that humus in the right proportion so that it won't be too acid and won't be too alkaline. If it's too acid, he's not going to grow anything. And if it's too alkaline, he's not going to produce any fruit. So it's got to be the right pH. Your colon must be the right pH too. And so what you got to do is to go in, clean it out. As good gardener would do, he clean out his yard, get all the stones out. Matter of fact, Isaiah the 5th chapter said God, what he did, he prepared himself a vineyard. He cleared all the thorns and stones out, and he planted with a choice vine. And he built him a watchtower. And he looked to see what it would bring up, and it brought up what? Wild plants. And he knew somebody had been tampering with his vineyard. He said, then why not cut it down? And so that's what have happened to your colon, because you have planted, put good food in it, but you didn't clean it out, all the debris and the stones and all that. So consequently, you're having a problem producing a healthy bowel stool. And when you have colitis and Crohn's disease, you're going to end up with this condition right here. And
so if you're a bit sensitive to
listen to
worms and insects and stuff and critters, maybe turn off now. Maybe turn off now. So what we have here is some medical footage of a surgery of some parasitic worms being pulled out of a patient's intestines, colon, etc. So this patient obviously survived, had the worms removed, no problems, everyone's happy, no worries, just medical footage. So here we have a surgery practice where a patient was complaining of intestinal bloating, and we'll soon find out why. So maybe you want to turn off now if you don't like the medical footage. So we have here here we go. Now that's not spaghetti. You can see the worms. I think it could be a tapeworm, pinworm, fishworm, pigworm. Now people ask me, Harley, how do you get these in your body? Well, these are contracted from eating meat, fish, dairy, eggs, etc. Now it's medical fact, biological fact, that these worms must have meat or dairy or whey protein, etc. to eat. These worms cannot live on plant-based.
So, and many of us are carrying around worms in our body, and we're not even aware of it. Sometimes they're itching and they're scratching your backside and so on. Could be worms and parasites that's causing that. So I've seen a lot of worms we're getting out of people's bodies, you know. So you just really need to be aware of it. A jelly-like stool, like Jello, is a perfect breeding place for parasites. Loose stools with diarrhea, it can come about from eating a lot of sugarless gums, drinking a lot of soda pops. Artificial sweeteners have a strong laxative effect, even a lot of fructose. All of these can cause you to have diarrhea and loose stools, so be mindful of that also. This is a stool here where a person is in severe ill health, and it's because of perpetual disobedience. If it hurt when you sit down and hurt when you get up, that means you've been doing things that hurt your body most of your life. And you don't know that you're eating yourself into a horrible situation. When you sit on the toilet, you shouldn't have to sit there a long time. If you sit there a long time, something is wrong. Okay? Something is wrong. It should come right out with no problem at all. And you should not have to use the whole roll of toilet paper. You shouldn't have to do that. And it should be a clean sweep. But if you got to use a whole roll of toilet paper, it's a lot of mucus stool. And it's hard to clean mucus up with toilet paper. So these are things you need to know. And I'm getting ready to close here, and I won't finish this, but I think I've covered enough to show you. But now here you can see a very light colored stool. This is a very dangerous one when you see this, because what it's telling me is that a person might have liver cancer or pancreatic cancer. When I see that, I know that the liver or the pancreas is compromised. It's almost a chalk color feces. It's got a really strong odor to it, and that tells me that person is in real bad health condition.
What causes that color again?
Well, it spasms in the bile duct, a blockage in the bile duct. Now the bile is the bile that comes from the liver, the bile. So if that becomes blocked, then the bile won't be able to color the feces. And so it'll end up being a clay color, a light color. And here's almost white. You'll see this when a lot of old people, that have some serious liver and pancreatic problems, chalky, white-looking stools. Also, when they have pancreatic cancer, you're going to see this yellow tint in their eyes and yellow tint in their feces, and their urine is yellow. That's yellow jaundice. And that is a sign that they are in serious problem. When I see this, when I see a person have a lot of yellow jaundice, they're going to suffer a lot of central nervous system problems, a lot of pain, irritability, nausea, weakness, loss of appetite. And most people associate that as the cancer doing that. They say the person's got terminal cancer, they don't want to eat, the cancer taking the appetite. Cancer don't do that. It will not do that at all. What's killing the appetite is the bile, the B-I-L-E. It's upchucking in the stomach and making them nauseated. So everything they eat, they want to throw up. So remember, it's not the cancer making them do that. You need to reduce that bile. And the way you reduce that bile is you got to give them a strong coffee enema. You take 1 quart of water, 4 tablespoons of coffee, the kind of coffee you percolate, and you percolate that, and then you strain that, and you simply give a person a small coffee enema, somewhere between 4 to 6 ounce coffee enema. Have them retain that as long as they can, and that coffee will actually draw the bile, the B-I-L-E, out of the gallbladder duct and send that to the colon, and then the colon would dump that in the toilet. So now some say, well, I don't want to take the coffee because the coffee got caffeine. You won't pick up any caffeine because the coffee is going to stimulate real strong peristaltics, and the peristaltics are going to push the feces downward instead of upward, out of the body and out of the system.
Can you repeat that, Elder?
Yes, you take 1 quart of water, and you take 3 to 4 tablespoons of percolated coffee, percolated like you're going to drink it. You're not going to drink it. And then you strain that, and then you give yourself between 4 to 6 ounce coffee, retention enema. It's not to make you have a bowel movement. It's simply to help pull the bowel down so that it can flush that surplus amount of bile that is getting in your bloodstream that's causing the pain, that's causing the nausea. It's to clean it out and clean it out the body so you can, have some ease and won't be, having so many problems. Once again, these are all different bowel droppings right here, and I'm going to now. Here is what I'm going to talk about peristaltics. Here you
The
can
final
see
stages
it.
of food digestion take place in the large intestine, or colon. After nourishment is extracted from what we eat, the leftover waste material mixed with water flows from the small intestine into the colon.
Now, you've seen that, right? You saw that, right? See, that's where the small intestines, right here. It hooks up right there with a valve called ileocecal valve. And right under this, right up under here, right up under, you can't see it right here, but right under this big gut here called the secrum, there's a little finger called the appendix. When the waste come into the ascending colon, the appendix stimulate peristaltics that moves it up toward the transversal colon. When it move up to the transversal colon says, I don't want you. I'm going to send you back to the appendix. So it come right back and lay on the head of the appendix. The appendix really don't like it laying on his head, so it creates more peristaltics and sends it back up to the transversal colon. This back and forth motion is a churning motion. It evaporates a lot of the bile salt and waters out of it, making it more thick and consistent like feces. And then it'll have one hard push and push it across the transversal colon, then eventually down the sigmoid colon, then down the descending colon and out the rectum. That's the way it's supposed to do. And when it do that, then, everything is going fine. Okay, so I'm going to, give me about 5 minutes if you can, and I'm going to stop because I don't want to weary the saints. But have you noticed that little children, when you start potty training them, and you got a white shag carpet, and they don't care nothing about that white carpet you got. They go and they squat. And you look up and see little Johnny squatting, and you run and grab him and snatch him up, and you head into the toilet with him. Get him to the toilet, slam him down on the toilet seat and say, Johnny, that's not what you do. You sit on the toilet. And Johnny looking at you, he's confused. He's doing what's natural. Nature told him to squat. And now you're trying to break him from squatting. He said, you sit on this nice cushioned toilet and you listen to a little music or you read a little book and you relax. And Johnny has been taught how to be constipated. Okay? That's exactly right. So now you might need a little aid. You can't go back to little Johnny anymore. You need to get you a little stool that you put in front of your toilet, about 12 inches high, and you need to put your foot on it and pretend you're Johnny. And lean forward a little bit, and your glottis, when you lean forward, your glottis is going to close like this. Everybody squinches when they get ready to have a bowel movement. The president squinch. The queen, she squinch, all right? So when you sit on that toilet and you, a brief squinch, that closes your glottis. Your glottis causes backflow of pressure to come down through your gut and help you defecate. Okay, so stop training our children to be constipated, please. Stop it. Yes, you should do that. Okay, I want to show you one last thing here in closing. Like I said, get to know your bowel movement. Introduce yourself. That's you. Okay, that's you. So, you know, don't be strangers. And I just want to show you one last thing here. And this is a case where I worked with a man. He had a colostomy. And I don't know, it may not play. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to play that because it'd take a few minutes. I was going to show you how to change a colostomy bag, but I won't do that. I will show you this one if it play, and I don't know when it play. Okay, it won't play. Okay. This is one I want to show you how to do. Well, that's it. I was going to show you how to do that. Okay. Now this is how to give an enema. And doing an enema, make sure that you fill your enema bag up with your proper solution, whether you're doing a coffee enema, a herb enema, or a water enema. Then make sure that your tip and your cutoff valve is cut off so the solution won't run out before you insert it. Then just before you insert the tip into the rectum, cut the inflow valve on and let the water run free, taking any excess air that's in the tube out before you insert it in the rectum. Then cut the tip off, get you a good lubricant, and lubricate the tip real well before inserting it. And then insert the tip real slow into the rectum. And then ask your patient to let you know when he's ready to go to the bathroom. When he feel like he's ready, he can hold no more, then cut the inflow valve off and remove the tip and allow him to go to the bathroom. Now that's not a real person, because some people get offended when they see somebody's backside. That's a medical mannequin, okay? So we train on the medical mannequins first, and then they had to try it on a person. I'm going to ask my son to come up. It's going to take but a minute to go through this quick demonstration. And you can come around, son, and face them. He's going to put together a bowel cleanser. And it's going to mix it all together. That's psyllium. You're going to use, I'm going to tell you make it about 1 pound, but this is not pound here. 1 pound of psyllium. And what is that, son?
Moringa.
That's moringa. 1/3 pound moringa. And what is that?
Apple powder.
That's apple pectin, apple powder. 1/3. And he's going to take 1/3 agar. 1/3 of a pound. And then the last one is what?
Cascara sagrada.
He's using 6 teaspoons of cascara sagrada. Remember, I told you in pounds. This is not actually a pound.
Oh, okay.
This is not actually a pound, but I measured it out so it come out right. I scaled it down, so it's still the same. In other words, but typically I make it by the pound, like I just told you. Now he's going to mash that up real good. Maybe use that big spoon right there, son. And sometime that apopectin will be a little lumpy, so you just have to kind of mash it with the finger, with the
So can you
spoon.
repeat the ingredients?
Yeah, mash it like that. Yes, you take 1 pound of psyllium, and this is your psyllium, 1 pound of psyllium, husk powder. You take 1/3 of a pound of moringa. You take 1/3 of apple pectin, apple fiber, which is really good. This is good to lower your cholesterol level. If you got high cholesterol, you want to definitely take this here. Fantastic. You can also use figs if you have it, fig powder. But 1/3 of agar, and 6 to 7 teaspoons of cascara sagrada. And you mix all that up together, and you're going to take 1 heaping tablespoon a little bit more. Okay? And you mix that in, and then you're going to fill that up with 4 to 6 ounces of juice. Now, what you really want to use like a paint jar, so you can put a lid on so you can shake it.
Grape juice? Grape juice?
Any type of juice, any type of juice you want. That's, and just take the spoon there and just, you can use any type. Well, I wouldn't use prune juice because it's got a laxative too,
Yeah.
and you may get too much of it. If you use prune juice, don't use the cascara sagrada.
Yeah, it might make matters worse.
It might make it a little too strong.
Okay, so can you take that and go to work?
Yes, you
Oh,
can.
Okay.
hmm
So how often do you?
You take this 2 to 3 times a day,
Okay.
preferably twice a day. You know, it's good enough.
Okay.
Okay. Now
that's
it will
good.
gel on you, you know, if you put enough in there, and it's that juice is real cold, so it's
Yeah.
slowing the gel down. But typically it will gel, so you want to drink that, shake it up real good, and drink it down before it gel and turn like Jello.
Oh.
Then it's gonna be hard to get down. So that's our simple demonstration. Each night we're gonna have a little something else to demonstrate, and we
Amen.
pray that the people
Online.
online, I pray that this will help you with a lot of problems. Remember, if you're having problems, investigate your intestinal problems and find a way to get it cleaned out. Sister Campbell, she'll be here. She's a wonderful missionary in this area. You might want to seek some counsel from her if you're in this area to see, you know, how you can get clean out. Okay.
So for how long should
Use the mic,
you,
use the mic, use the mic.
sorry, for how long should you take that cleanse?
You see, everyone is so different.
Mhm.
Typically, you know, you can, a week, 2 weeks may be
Oh,
good
okay.
enough, but some people have what they call a paralyzed colon.
Mhm.
That means they've been constipated many years,
Oh, okay.
and they don't get any movement in their gut.
Right.
They may have to take it a long time.
Oh, okay.
Question, Elder. Can a collapsed colon be fixed?
It can. A prolapsed colon can be fixed. I actually reset the colon. A lot of women suffer from prolapsed colon, and that's because when they have children, their abdominal muscles get weak,
Mm-hmm.
and it can't support the gut. See, what happened is your colon actually hang like on a clothesline. When you walk, it bounces around like that.
Oh.
It bounces around. And your muscles actually keep it intact. So, but sometimes it can get so heavy that it sag on you and drop. The ligaments get weak and it drop down. And it can cause some really tough problems. So what we do is we put them in a knee-chest position. And the knee-chest position is where we put them and we can stretch the colon back out. Now, I can show you how to do a knee chest position now,
Okay.
if somebody want me to do it, but I had to put you on this table, and I can show you how to do a knee chest position.
Yeah, yeah. I would be the one to.
You want to see how to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't think this table hold him?
I don't know that.
I don't know.
You want to take 2 questions from online in the meantime while we get prepared for that?
Yes. Is there any question online? Anyone with any question? Unmute the mic if it's muted.
Yes.
Brother Jojo.
Brother Wilson?
Yes.
Yes. I was wondering, had you ever run across the book called Bowel Cleansing by Dr. Bernard Jensen of Escondido, California?
I know a lot about Bernard Jenkins. Bernard Jenkins were a pre-student of Dr. Harvey Kellogg. And I studied Bernard Jenkins' colon health and colon hygiene, which he really got the idea of writing the book Colon Health from Dr. Harvey Kellogg. So yes, I do know a lot about him. He was a very gifted, natural doctor. He never really took our message, but God blessed him with a lot of knowledge, and I gained a lot from him. So yes, I'm very much aware of his book, Colon Health and Colon Hygiene.
That's an excellent read. I should recommend.
It is. As a matter of fact, if you notice some of the pictures I had there, it's really some out of his book.
I thought so.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I thought so.
They're not seeing the video. Elder, another question. Jaundice,
Yes,
can it be cured?
it can. A lot of babies have jaundice when they're born because their liver is not fully developed, and they're born with jaundice.
Oh, okay.
And what the mothers would do is to take a few drops of golden seal and put it on their tongue, and that would stimulate their liver to produce bile.
So how about a older person? I've seen so many elder persons died from it.
Give them some golden seal tea, number one, and then give them coffee enemas. They may need about 2 or 3 coffee enemas a day to clean out that bile out.
Wow. So it can be rectified.
And I always got to do a liver flush.
Yeah.
A liver flush is where you take the juice of 5 lemons and 1 ounce of olive oil. You drink that first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. That's the first day. The second day, you take the juice of 10 lemons and 1 ounce of olive oil, and you drink that on an empty stomach. The third day, you take the juice of 15 lemons, 1 ounce of olive oil on an empty stomach. Now, all 3 of those days, you can eat, but you have to wait 3 or 4 hours before you put anything in your stomach. After, because if you don't, you're going to throw it up.
Oh.
You're going to throw it up. And try to eat a low mucus diet until you can clean out all that bile out.
Amen. All right, so we want to do the...
You want to do this? I still think that table hold you. I don't think that table are going to be any problem. No, I can't do it in the chair.
So that we could use this look around.
I can do it there, yeah.
The phone is plugged in. Just put the phone on the ground and put the coconut on the table.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, you're going to shoot it from there, bro. You're going to...
I'm going to try to zoom in.
He going to zoom it, so... Let's turn it sideways then.
Side this way.
Yeah, so he can see how to do it when he's shooting. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to get up on this here on your knees.
On my knees.
Mm-hmm.
Like this?
Yeah. And then I want you to put your hand down like that.
Okay.
Up here. Put your thumbs together. No, like this.
Oh, okay.
And you're going to spread your leg out a little bit. No, keep it up. Just open them up a little bit. And then your feet like that.
Okay.
Okay, we ready? Now what this is, his throat, his stomach, and his colon are all connected. One long pipe. So I'm going to stretch it. And he's going to feel it. He's going to put his chin right there. And just... Okay, now turn your head to the side. All the way to the side. And you keep this up. Okay, how you feel?
Yeah.
You can feel it pulling, can't you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it feels like a rubber band.
Yeah.
You hold that for 5 minutes. And then you stretch out flat. And you relax about 10 minutes and that's it. That's good. You do that every night.
Okay.
And you slowly stretch your esophagus. You can pull in your esophagus, your stomach, and it's pulling your colon back up that has prolapsed down.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, but I turn it over to the elder back. And,
There's one question somebody wanted to ask.
okay.
Elder B,
Yeah, go ahead. Tell him to go ahead. Tell him to go ahead.
Go ahead, Brother Ricardo.
So the question online says, does the acidophilus make you poop on a regular? And can you take it with probiotic?
Yes, basically acidophilus is just one different strain of the probiotics. So there are many different strains of acidophilus. So they're all basically the same. So yes, you can take them all the same or you can interchange them. They do the same thing. Now you want to know, do they make you poop? Well, what it does though, it helps your colon be healthy, and the chemistry of your colon is kept in a proper balance. Pardon? The intestinal flora is in a proper balance. Your healthy bacteria versus your pathogenic bacteria is put at a proper balance so that your pathogenic bacteria don't outgrow your healthy bacteria. That's going to make your colon function better and will make you have healthier stools and more regular stools.
One more. I think I had one more. One more. I think I have one more. The last one. Question. I had two questions. Tell him to ask one more.
Any more questions? Someone with a question? Sorry.
yes,
Brother Joe.
Elder Wellston. I wanted to know if after taking antibiotic treatments, would yogurt be good for the system to help to bring the system back into symbiosis?
If you've taken a real strong antibiotics, yogurt will help, but there are better methods than yogurt. Yogurt have a very mild strain of probiotics, acidophilus. What you're going to need to keep from ending up with candida or yeast infection. When you get antibiotics, you're going to need a really strong strain of probiotics. And that is, your probiotics need to be at least 100 billion. I prefer 400 billion. But 100 billion to 400 billion bacilli will neutralize the adverse side effects of antibiotics. And so a lot of people, especially women, when they take a lot of antibiotics, we have yeast infection, vaginal discharge, vaginitis. And that's because the antibiotics destroys the immune system and take over for the immune system. So, but the probiotics and prebiotics, they can actually help your body regain the balance back again.
What would be a good strain? Where would I find this?
Well, there's many. As long as you can get at least 100 billion. Now, you can get 50 billion, but at least get 100 billion bacilli. It doesn't matter. Now, there's one that we get is 400 billion. You have to get that online. It's the only one that is made. It's 400 billion bacilli. Which is the most powerful one. You can only take that for 5 days, though. But the 100 billion, you can take that for several weeks.
Okay, we're going to stop it. No?
Would it be found more so in a health food store?
Yes, you can find the 100 billion, 50 billion, 100 billion typically at most health food stores. But if you want to get to 400 billion, then you're going to have to go online and just key in 400 billion probiotics.
Okay.
It's powder. You can get liquid probiotics, but the one I'm talking about is powder.
What does it work well with, water or juice?
Well, see, you need to feed with prebiotics. Your prebiotics actually feed your probiotics. And so you need to eat certain foods that would actually feed the bacilli. And that's eating a plant-based diet. And you need to, yogurt would do that, especially if you get some non-dairy free yogurt, which would be non-mucus forming. That would be good to do that. But most of your fruits and grains would be pre-probiotics, and they would feed the probiotics.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to have to stop here. Tonight we don't want to wear out time.
Okay. We'll be back tomorrow, and we're going to build, and it's going to get more intense. And, and I wish that more of you was out here, because
yes,
not being here, you're going to miss out on a lot, because when we start making these things and doing these things, I know it's sometimes inconvenience, but if you can come out, and I think you'll be worth your while, because I don't know when I'll be back in this area again, and I just thank God I had an opportunity to be here. God bless you.
God bless. All right, we're going to have to stop here. Thank you very much. We had as much as 30 people on YouTube tonight, and about 20, a little more than 20 on the conference call. So we thank you, Virgin, for your support, although we wish you were here.